11. 16. It's 16. It's not 11. We've eclipsed 11. That's right, guys. Who's ready for a show? We got one for you, let me tell you. The chat is already active. That's great. At 11. All right, guys. I think it's working. I thought it was working great until I heard a weird little echo there, and then it went away. So we're just gonna hope for the best here and make sure that there's not something. Doesn't seem to be anything going on. Great. Okay. Hey, how's everyone doing? Welcome to the Your Reason to Stay Inside. This is episode 16, which is further than I thought we would get in this process. I say that both optimistically and happily because I've enjoyed all the time we've been spending together, but also, you know, it's I gotta say, coming from the US, this was originally conceived of as like, oh hey, let's do something during the lockdown for a few weeks, and then that kind of kept going, and now it's like it's getting worse over here, at least over in Europe. Congratulations to you guys, and New Zealand, man, high five. You guys like killed it. I mean, literally with the virus, you know, you guys are doing great. We, not so much. So, hoping things turn around for us. But until then, it's more of the same. I'm still here in my little bubble, hanging out, making music, and, you know, hanging out with you guys, which is like not the worst trade-off to this thing anymore. But I should mention, by the way, you just consider this a heads up. Next week, there will not be a show. Bum, bum, bum. That's right. I wasn't planning on taking any vacation this summer. And then I heard from so many people that took little breaks. They would take like 5 days, 4 days, you know, a week or whatever. And they said, oh my God, I had no idea how nice it was for the sort of the monotony of the lockdown era where we're all kind of working from home and every day is kind of the same and time has no meaning, and all of a sudden you just break that routine a little bit by doing something for a few days. And they were like, it just paid such huge dividends. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it. But that means next week you guys are on your own because Stefan's gone, I'm gone, the show's going dark next week, but we'll be back the week after, so it's not too bad. I could do one of these, you know, the European vacations that are like, I don't know, you guys take like 15 weeks off and then you come back for 2 days and then you've got your winter break and stuff. It's insane the amount of vacation you guys get. We don't get that much over here, but anyway, I'll be taking a little break. But that's me. We should talk about our guest. I have a guest this week, as I do most weeks. Some weeks we hang out on our own. Some weeks we bring in a special guest. This week we have a special guest. I'm very excited to have him here. He is someone, you guys, if you know the Reason community, you might know him already. He's done some stuff officially with us. He's done some stuff on his own. He's got a Instagram and social channels and album catalog to explore. So I am excited to have him. Let's bring him on right away, really. So, guys, welcome Paul Ortiz. Paul.
Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks, man. That's nice to finally be on.
I know. You made a cameo appearance we did a episode, I don't remember if it was episode 4 or 5, where I just turned on a camera and I thought, you know what? Maybe I'll just open up a Zoom call to the audience and we'll just all hang out together, which is actually, let me know in the comments, guys. That's something I might do again if you're all into doing it. Would you want to do another one of those where you guys are the guest and I bring you all on via big Zoom call? And we could do it, last time I was just chit-chatting with you guys, but we could do it in a way where you guys are maybe showing some stuff that you've done or sharing some of your music. So let me know in the comments if you're into doing that. But Paul, you were one of the people on that an inaugural Zoom call concept.
Yeah, it was cool. And got to hear some really awesome music as well. David Generato's City, what was it called? Cities Alive or something? It was a sick tune. Like
City Comes Alive, I think it was
City
called.
Comes Alive. Yeah, I was blasting that.
David will
for quite
let
a
us
while
know.
afterwards.
He's in the chat, so David will let us know. I'm sure he's thrilled to be that was one of your memorable moments from that stream. So, although I learned afterwards that while David Generato is the coolest like electro artist name, it's actually Generato. It's his.
Okay.
Yeah. So David, you're gonna congratulations on a lifetime of being mispronounced by the Western audience. But
well, you wouldn't think it, but my name gets mispronounced all the time, and it's not even that hard.
Really?
Yeah, it's. I've had Otis, Oritz. Yeah, it's just Ortiz. It's
Really?
exactly how it's spelled.
Yeah. It doesn't throw me in any way, but I guess I have a friend whose last name it's a rather unique last name because it was one of these. His family were immigrants to Ellis Island in New York, coming over during the war, and it's that classic thing where the guy at Ellis Island changed their name. So I can't remember what their name was. It was some rather Polish name. And he wrote down on the paper Alulis, Alulis. So, okay, that's now the family name, has been for whatever it is, 70 years. But now to me, that is not a very complicated name, but it apparently is just butchered because it's not one
It's just not familiar.
Yeah, it's not familiar. Yeah. So it's Owlis. It's all sorts of weird butchering. So it actually became my friend who, when he got married, he actually put it into, I think, in his wedding vows to his wife, apologizing for bringing her into, because her maiden name was Howe, which is like the easiest. So she really downgraded in the recognizability. But anyway, so yeah, you're getting a hey Paul from David, by the way, in the
Hey, David
in the chat. Mowgli says David Generator. Yeah, that's right. It's like sort of like generator. Anyway, I have a troll. Oh, I've got someone. DJ Divic says I've got a troll in the chat. Okay, cool. Guys, let me know who the troll is, and I'll wield the ban hammer. I'm not.
There's always one, right?
I guess there is. Yeah. I wonder who it is. Oh well, you got feel free to rat them out, guys, and I'll if it looks like that's true, then I'll definitely keep it nice and clean there in the chat. So Paul, you are over in the UK.
Yes.
And I presume that's sort of where you've based your music making out of, your career out of. You want to tell everybody kind of what it is you do musically?
Yeah. So I've kind of always been like a bedroom artist. Kind of guy. Both my parents are musicians, so they kind of drilled it into me from I think I got my first Atari with Cubase 2 or 3 on it when I was like 6, and it was in black and white. And I've just kind of stuck with it ever since then, really. It's taken a while for it to get to a point where it's my career now. There's
I know people that I didn't. Not that I wasn't around back in those days of music making, but I wasn't an Atari user. I wasn't. It just was a machine that didn't come into my world. But what I heard from people that were on those was that they had the most solid clock in a way that I don't know if that's still. It's probably improved over the years, but during the transition over to sort of the Windows and Mac based production, people all used to complain that the timing just wasn't as good.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously back then everything was it was general MIDI hardware, so the only sounds were whatever you had in your little box. And it was years and years before it was even possible for me to record guitar. I didn't even start playing guitar until 16, 17.
Okay.
And then that kind of became my main thing. So I had this project, I have this project called Chimp Spanner, which is instrumental, progressive metal stuff. And yeah, I was doing that for 10 plus years, sort of played shows and did a few tours and stuff. And that's now gradually morphed into sound design and production music and everything. But I'm kind of just trying to encompass it all and bring it back around again to the metal stuff, which I'm now doing exclusively in Reason, which is
I'm
which is
noticing
really
behind
cool.
you what I believe to be an 8-string guitar. Is that the one in the middle there?
Yeah, so there's a 7, an 8, a 5-string bass, and a 6-string Variax behind me.
Uh-huh.
All I'm missing now is a 9. I want to get a 9. And then I could pretend to be Mick Gordon for.
First of all, I just love how many times have we, and people in the audience will know this too, the phrase, all I'm missing now is maybe the most commonly uttered phrase by people who chronically continue acquiring things.
Well, I'll tell you what, like, because when we had that sort of brief chat yesterday, and it's taken me a while to get to a point where, like, okay, I need to stop buying new plugins now. I need to stop buying new racks, like, because I've got everything I want on there now, and it's like, well, if the song's not coming, it's not because I don't have enough stuff. It's
I actually, like, I used to sort of kick myself because I would start if I had gone through a lull of music making where I wasn't making a lot of music and I wanted to get back into it, I would often sort of buy my way back into it. So I'd buy a plugin, and then I'd explore that plugin, and that would be kind of what kickstarts music. Or I'd buy a sample library, and part of me felt guilty about that for a long time because I thought, oh God, like, come on, you've got enough. Just make music with what you have. But then I kind of came to accept that, like, if that works as if I have been in, I don't call it writer's block or call it a rut or call it just other interests or whatever, but if I've been away from music and I'm wanting to get back into it, and my cost of entry is a $60 delay plugin, fine. That's
I'll
what
tell
it
you
takes.
what. For a while, I was feeling kind of guilty because I was amassing all of this stuff, and I didn't feel like my output was matching the amount of stuff that I was buying.
Right.
And then this job came along that required me to make a lot of tracks in a very short amount of time. And I was like, I've got everything I need. Like, I don't need to go looking for stuff. So I don't want to encourage anyone to spend recklessly. But it was cool that when I needed things, I just had everything to hand. And
Sure.
so I was investing in the future. That's what I was doing.
There is, speaking of things maybe to delve into and acquire in the future, the comment section, they have first of all they're asking why no banjo. I concur wholeheartedly. How could you need a 9-string banjo? But then they've kind of combined our worlds, Paul. I think our duet album is set to go here. They've combined your gent world with banjo to form the genre known as banjent.
Banjo. Oh my God.
I think it could play. I think it could do well.
Well, we've made the connection now, so let's make it happen. we can't disappoint.
The album that no one was asking for a genre that nobody knew existed.
Just when you thought 2020 couldn't get worse.
That's right. First there was Murder Hornets, then there was Banjent. Oh man. Well, so you are quite a guitarist, but you're also quite just a producer and composer. I don't know what term you self-identify with, but you're quite a muso.
Yeah, for a really long time it was just guitar. So I've always been a multi-instrumentalist, but it was guitar-driven music. And then the more that I started kind of getting into the sound design world and then library and production music stuff, I just kind of had to branch out through necessity. So you'd get an email like 9 o'clock at night saying, hey, do you want to have a crack at this like pan flute music or some 70s disco or something? And I was like, yep, I'll just do it. So yeah, I've kind of just been steadily adding to the repertoire, I guess. But I still feel like my strength is in guitar-based stuff.
Now, I've heard a lot of stuff you've done now, and I gotta push back and say your guitar is good, but don't sell yourself short on all that other stuff. You've come quite a long way from whatever prototype pan flute music you were making.
Well, see, I do really enjoy that stuff now. Like, electronic music just feels a lot more kind of boundless, I suppose, and especially when like people are expecting to hear something that's squarely in that gent prog tech thing. It does get a little bit narrow. So yeah, it's been nice to have excuses to dip into other genres and stuff.
The thing with genres, I remember someone talking about it strictly in the electronic realm. They were talking about how there's an arc to the way that musical genres develop. So you'll have one genre going on, and then someone starts pushing the boundaries in that genre and breaking the rules, and once you break enough of those rules, it's like it almost sort of splits off like a cell division, and it becomes its own thing. But when it first becomes its own thing, there are no super defining rules for it. It could, people are trying things out, and they're kind of figuring out what is this new genre that we're working in. And then you go ahead.
Yeah, well, the style that I'm writing in, I guess it kind of started all the way back in early 2000, and it was very much that thing that everyone was just like, what can I smush into this that hasn't been there before? So one really defining feature of it is that there's a lot of synth and effects based stuff. And interestingly, I was actually using Reason for that stuff way back when it was still Rewire. That was driving all the synth sounds of this metal stuff and kind of creating this kind of spacey atmospheric texture that was underneath what would normally be really hard driving guitar stuff. So
right.
Even before I switched over to Reason full time, it was actually still part of the creative process, going back.
It is interesting around that time that there was this convergence of so many, the computer becoming the hub of production. It became such a natural thing that if you were a guitar-based band and you were working in a studio on analog tape, and we just go back 8 years before this point in time, if you wanted to add a synth to your record, you had to know a guy who probably had a synth who could bring it into the studio, and then you could experiment with it. But it was such there was such a hill to climb just to see what that texture sounds like in this music. Yeah. It was just unfathomable, You had to really have a vision.
Yeah, it's like a barrier to experimentation. I've seen the phrase a lot that music making now is kind of democratized because it's just so much more accessible to people. And even when I started doing what I'm doing, early 2000s,
right?
It still felt like this hard thing. You had to have a good enough computer. You had to kind of figure out how to make all the bits talk to each other and stuff. And now it's it's all just there for people just start working with straight away.
Yeah, it's I think it's been quite a boon. And I should point out to people that work in the electronic genre, that pendulum swings the other way too. There are tools now by which, maybe you don't have a 9-string baritone guitar or whatever, but there are tools where you can start experimenting with those textures in the electronic world as well, really easily. In fact, there's a friend of Propeller Head and Reason Studios for a long time named Josh Mobley, who is not a guitarist, but he makes some fantastic heavy guitar-based music, and he's doing it using, guitar libraries or, plugins, and sometimes it's synths that get run through Heaviosity, sound processing and stuff like that. And it's really fantastic.
Yeah, I've actually I've got the shreddage stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Yeah, so sometimes so even though I can play guitar, I find it's quite a fun exercise to just sketch things out in MIDI first, because then you kind of get past that barrier of well, can I actually play this? You just write it, and then you learn off your own MIDI on the real instrument again.
Right.
But during writing, it's really cool because you can just change pitch and speed and everything without the audio stretching and all the rest of it.
Right. Well, should we? I wonder if we should maybe kind of not speak in the abstract, but show some people kind of some of the stuff that you do, and in doing so, kind of poke around and kind of just understand your process a little bit. I think it would be kind of fun to get into.
Yeah, sure thing. Let me go on my desktop. Let's have a look. So yeah, I've been getting back into the gent stuff again. And it's been really cool doing it in Reason, just from that sound design perspective. I'm able to do a lot of stuff in it that I actually couldn't do in Cubase.
Right.
And it's all self-contained now as well, which is really cool. So I guess, shall I just kind of play a little bit of a song?
Let me switch over to the screen here. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm seeing it now. Yeah, let's take a listen to what we got. Let's see a lot of rack extensions.
Yeah, there's a lot. I'll skip it forward a bit. So that's also all of the guitar processing is actually being done through Reason. We could perhaps take a look at the amp chain in a little bit. But
I'd love to.
So one of the things that I'm kind of looking to do with this stuff, so that's kind of like the more sort of metal edge side of it. But I'm also trying to incorporate some synth-based design into it as well. So.
Oh, okay. But so you had the guitar doubling with the synth there, right?
Yeah, and I've also started doing that a lot with bass as well. So I'm kind of layering these kind of distorted super saws underneath a real bass guitar, and it sounds like monstrous.
Oh, interesting. Is there an example of that in this?
Yeah, I believe so. So
that's interesting. I thought of that bass. It's just literally doubling.
Yeah, so I think the bass on this isn't actually real. It's Shreddage Abyss or something.
Okay. Okay, but it's simulating that sort of 6-string bass deep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then underneath that, there's a layer of... And it just gives this kind of like buzzy overtone, very kind of like 2016 Doom.
Isn't that interesting how much, and particularly this is true, I guess, in this genre, how much the bass is made up of high frequencies? Most of what we're hearing there is high frequency, which you wouldn't think of for a bass.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like it's half the guitar tone as well. You know, if you take that bass tone out from this, the guitars are just, well, they're not nothing, but it takes a lot away from it. But yeah, so I think for the chain for that is the, I don't know if you're familiar with the, I don't even know how you say it, Kuasa?
Kuasa, yes.
Kuasa.
Yeah.
I'll just call it Kuasa. So yeah, I mean, that's literally just, it's a couple of guitar channels running into a bus. I like to put my amps on a bus, so you only have to tweak one instance and it processes them in stereo. So you don't have to kind of have one on each guitar.
Wait, now hang on. So if we can dissect that, you're saying if you were to bypass the inserts on the group channel, what do we hear? Wow!
But as long as these are hard panned left and right, then most plugins are going to treat that as two independent signal paths, and you won't get any crossover in the distortion. So then you only have to make adjustments to one amp panel to change both guitars. So I mean, I'm lazy. I like things that save time.
Yeah, no, but that's a handy way to do it. I'm looking in the comments here too. Chalism says Lemmy's amp from Motorhead, we're talking about here, was always highs and mids from what he understands. He kept his bass frequencies turned way down. Yeah,
so it's actually a similar thing with this. If I take it to, let's take it to an interesting riff. So this thing here is cutting out almost all of the bass, especially because it's a low tuned instrument.
Yeah.
So if you take that tone shaping off.
Oh yeah.
It's just the difference between
just
it being kind of
sharpening the knife a little bit.
Yeah, and this kind of, bringing out the pick attack and all of that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Now, but so in a world where the bass sounds are mostly, high mids and high frequencies or predominantly, and guitars are obviously that, where does the low end weight come from?
I guess in this case, it comes from the tuning and a lot of the sub in the bass guitar.
Okay.
And the kicks are pretty punchy as well. I mean, so I'm using this. It's a Contact library. Get Good Drums. Don't know if you're familiar with that. It's kind of like an alternative to Superior Drums.
What is it called?
Get Good Drums.
No, I don't know that one.
Dude, yeah. It's just like punchy.
Yeah, right. Okay. I've often used when I need that sort of punchy rock drum thing, I'll use the Ryan Green alt drums refills that we put out a few years ago.
Yeah, I did a whole library album using using that and kind of mixing it with like synthetic drums and stuff to layer underneath.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, like where that low end comes from is kind of processing an acoustic kit, so it sounds a bit more electronic. So this is one of my favorite racks, disperser. I have no idea how it works or what it does, but that's without. It sounds like a dance kick. It's kind of doing this weird frequency, like phasing thing, and it sounds like an electronic kick.
I think I saw that. I think Adam Fielding, when he was on our stream, used that as well. And that's one I got to get into because
it's actually on the snare as well. If I take it off, it kind of sounds a bit.
Boy,
it adds this kind of like pew to the start. Like,
I'll play it again. I want to hear because it's pretty subtle, isn't it?
It's just like an extra tiny bit of bottom end.
Yeah, okay, I gotcha. Wow. Now I see you're this must be relatively recent in the mix. You've got 11 point, what was that? Reason 11.2 stuff with the master bus compressor and the channel EQ as rack devices in here.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like using the master bus compressor just as as an insert on things because it's got the whole variable attack time and everything, and it sounds sick on drums. I think there's quite a lot of like in the box stuff here. Like I use Scream a whole bunch. Sweeper has become like my kind of Swiss Army knife of filtering and modulation and everything.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so there's a lot of sweet material in here, 11 sweet stuff.
Scream, I've been thinking about Scream recently because when I go and talk to artists and do like an artist interview, a lot of times if they've got friends who are kind of in the studio with them working and stuff that aren't Reason users, they'll all say like, oh, can you please make Scream into a plugin? I just want Scream as a VST plugin because I want to use that on other things. And I think about that now, particularly with things like with Reason Light, for example, which I saw somebody in the chat was a relatively recent Reason Light user. And I think about people like that where it's like Scream is now basically, through the Reason Light rack plugin, it basically is now a VST, an AU, and AAX plugin. If that's all you want, there it is,
Yeah, I mean, I use it for so much stuff. Like the tape model on it is really, really good for drum buses because it just kind of adds that kind of warm, fat tone to it,
Right. This is a theme that I'm noticing already with you, which is maybe something worth mentioning for the people watching, that you are, you're very bus-minded, which is
yes.
That's a good thing. And maybe we could kind of explain that for people. The idea that, you could say that it's done for efficiency, but it's also done for sanity, right?
Yeah, it's a mix of things. I mean, with a lot of the stuff that I do, delivery is really important. So if I'm going to send things on or release them through work or whatever, it's really useful to be able to say, right, here's all my drums, here's the stem for that, here's the lead synths, here's the bass, etc. But it's also just being able to kind of make big changes to entire sections of the mix. So I mean, normally when I get to the end of a mix, I might even then bust these further and say, here's all of the guitars, rhythm, lead, clean, here's all the basses, all the synths.
Yeah.
And then I can kind of make big adjustments to the balance between those things later on. And it's just a lot less faffing around with, I've only got to handle one send effect for all these layer guitars instead of 2 or 3 or 6.
Oh, Paul, faffing around is just
faffing.
At some point after the war for independence that we cut ourselves off from you, we got rid of the word faffing, and it's a sad loss to our British heritage that we didn't keep that in the American dialect. But so I mean that's something for people to keep in mind. If you're out there, if you're watching and you don't do a lot of bussing, it's like just a thing to think about when you're. I assume you do this during the production phase. This is not a mix step for you, right?
No, I don't know if it's a good or a bad habit or not. Like I tend to do a lot of things at once, where I know some people tend to work in a more like compartmentalized thing. So they'll say, we're going to do the tracking, and then we'll do the mixing, and then the production and stuff. I tend to kind of mix things about a little bit, but bussing is one of the things that I do really early on. Like you say, just for sanity, it kind of helps you keep a grip on mixes as they get bigger.
I often have a situation where, particularly for vocals, I'll do one vocal and I'll put a reverb on it, and then I'll do another vocal and I'll put the same reverb on it, and then I'll go to another, and I'll get to about 3 or 4 before I go like, wait, come on, Harlan, get with it, and I'll turn them all off, put them on a bus, and then put the, because then there's inevitably that moment when you get to the mix where you're like, I should make the decay just a little less, and now you got to go through all those reverbs and change that setting.
Yeah,
if you've done it individually. So in that, from an efficiency standpoint, it's great. But yeah, it's neat. It's nice to see that you're definitely bus minded. And I was going to say also, until I saw this multicolor rack in front of us, that you're I think it is still pretty good. Your color coordination, certainly in the mixer, is something to be.
So this is another sort of like organizational thing, is that I almost always have the same color scheme. So it's like red for drums, blue for bass, yellow for synths. So that kind of helps me, just at a glance, I can go straight to the area of the mix that I want to change. Green is always going to be guitars, red's always going to be drums.
Right.
It's just a thing that I like to do.
Gotcha.
Again, yeah.
I'm going to just answer a question I'm seeing in the chat here. Tom is asking, what happened to the support team? Tom, my understanding is that the support team is on a very reduced crew right now because of summer vacation schedules. So I'm sorry it's taken them a little extra time to get to you. Do have patience. They will get to you. And so I don't know how many people they are normally and how many they've gone to, but they are kind of in something of a skeleton crew right now while different people are doing their, in Sweden has this expression about summer. They say summer is the best day of the year. And so there's this like little tight window where everybody tries to take their vacation before it gets cold and dark and gloomy again. Look at me, I'm not really selling the Swedish tourism board. But anyway, they'll be back. They will definitely get to you for sure. All right, so Paul, back with you. So is this this is a new track that we're looking at here?
Yeah, so this is kind of more of the, I guess, dark ethereal electronic stuff that I like to work on when I'm not doing gent stuff. And there's a few interesting things to look at in this, I guess, but I'll just kind of take it to a bit where something happens. There's some guitar in this as well, some real guitar. I just love reason for this kind of stuff.
Wow, yeah. I recognize you're doing the thing I often do, which is when I'm playing something for someone, like, that's enough. I'll skip ahead. No, they've heard enough. I don't want to trouble them. Oh no, that's okay. I'm enjoying it. I think everybody else is. We're gonna.
Oh, dude, I don't want to take liberties and just
we are going to force you to play more of that, despite your polite instincts. So, but that is, talk about whiplash from the gent kind of stuff. That really is quite a different state of mind that you would be approaching this kind of stuff,
Yeah, there is some crossover. Like I was kind of saying earlier, like one of the things that underpins that style is a lot of ambience and sound design and soundscaping and everything. So it naturally crosses over into music that that is purely that. I actually can't remember what I used on this. But one really cool thing that I do like to do is players have been making life like a whole bunch easier for me lately. So one of the things that I dislike doing the most is programming trap hats. So the drums are actually running off of separate MIDI lanes here. So I've kind of just got all the elements on their own thing. But the hats are being triggered by a player. So that's the only thing that's in the player.
Uh-huh.
So that kind of trappy pattern is coming from that. So that if I then decided that for all the verses in this song, I want to have like a, a little stutter at the end. And now that's going to carry across to all the places where I've used that pattern. And it's just so much easier than going in and doing it in the clips and stuff.
Right. It's some of the same efficiency that Blocks was meant to solve, but some people didn't take to the Blocks concept of change once and apply everywhere.
Yeah, see, I use Blocks a whole bunch. I don't know if I used it here, but I mean, there was a project a while ago where I think I had to do something like 20 tracks in about 2 weeks. And it was all Blocks. It was to the point where, because it was quite formulaic the way they wanted it done, I would open up a new project and I'd draw out the blocks before I even had any music in them, and I'd say, right, intro, verse, drop, chorus, verse, get it all sketched out.
Yeah.
And then I'd only have to populate that bit once, and then within like half an hour, I'm like, I have like a skeleton of a song, and it would all just kind of come together. So yeah, blocks are really cool. If anyone's not using them, definitely don't sleep on blocks. Blocks are cool.
Push button says, I love blocks. I make everything blocks. So there's a couple of comments I wanted to make sure. I mean, there's a lot I want to dig into because this is a really neat sounding tune, and I want to kind of understand how it ticks and what makes it run. But particularly, I want to zoom in for a second on the kick. Somebody in the comments commented, "Dat kick." And
so it's been a while since I opened this up. What is it? What is the kick?
Once we look at that one, then we're also going to go. There was another thing. What's the other question? That is a nice kick.
There's not a whole bunch going on with that. That's a plugin called Atlas, which I don't know if you're familiar with it at all.
No, but it's pretty.
So it's a machine learning drum kit builder, and you feed all of your samples into it, like across all of your drives and stuff. It works out, okay, this is a kick, this is a clap, this is a hat, and then you just roll the dice and it builds drum kits.
No.
Yeah. Let me just make sure that my track is armed. So if I decide, oh yeah, I'm not feeling that kick, none of these samples are like tagged or categorized or anything. It's just pulling them in from different parts of the hard drive.
Wow.
So yeah, that kick in particular, I guess, was just happened to be a nice sounding kick.
Yeah, interesting. Now, is it? I assume it has some method to roll that back too, then, or?
I was just going to close the project.
Oh yeah, do because.
To be honest, I have faith in the Reason Global Undo system, but sometimes it doesn't work with certain plugins because they're just fussy.
Right. Yeah, that undo thing relates. It's the VST world is crazy. The plugin needs to report its undo history to the host, and some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them kind of do. Some of them are as good as reporting as a teenager to their parents about their whereabouts. It's like they'll kind of tell you what's going on, but not everything. So let's take a look at. I just want to hear that kick kind of in isolation if we could, because it does have a really nice, bouncy, like kind of a deep bounce, but with a little. Yeah, it's got the sub with a top.
Yeah, I'm just seeing. I might have done something on the. Let's see if there's anything going on the group bus. No, it might just be a nice sounding sample. I mean, it's going through a sweeper. I can't imagine that's. No, it's just a nice sample.
Just a nice sample, yeah, because the filter's whacked right up. So,
I mean, normally, I guess if I wanted a kick to sound like that wasn't something like the tape mode on Scream, going into a compressor like Master Bus Compressor or OTT or something would be really cool.
Now I'm going to somewhat sort of what do you call it? Psychoanalyze you for a second and say that what I notice about that kick is that there actually is, as much as this track doesn't have any kind of progressive metal element to it at all, it does have the thing that we talked about in the beginning, which is that some of the low end elements are defined by their top end characteristics. And that's true of that kick, and I think it's true of some other stuff as well.
Yeah, so I think there's a bit of interplay between like the kick and the bass. So there's some distortion going on there as well. Like I just can't help myself. Got to distort everything. So yeah,
Wow.
I guess I never really thought about it, but that it is kind of like it's got some.
If you solo
guitar-y-
those two things on their own, it just sounds like a lot like the other track in a way. I mean,
yeah,
you can hear that connective artist
yeah.
element, you know. But if you unsolo them, what does that section sound like? Wow.
So I guess the. Wait a minute. Be quiet. There you go. Yeah, I guess the distortion is kind of just like filling in some of the mid range, where otherwise it would just be the kind of like wispy top end stuff and the kick down the bottom. So the distortion just adds like this almost like white noise kind of layer to the mid
Yeah,
range.
but it is really interesting too. I mean, just on a compositional element as well, how dark that bass line is, and then
Yeah,
it
I'm
gets
actu-
sweetened up quite a bit with the
Yeah, I
top elements.
think. I mean, you might notice on a lot of my synths, they all say "init patch" because I'm a bit of a patch head guy. So I actually can't remember what I did on this. I mean, scream again. So I think a lot of that character is coming from Quartet, which is like that's just my go-to chorus now for pretty much everything.
Gotcha. And do you use a lot of chorus?
I mean, normally, because there's a super saw thing going on that as well.
Yeah.
Which on its own. Yeah, just darkens it up.
That is cool. Yeah, I think I think a lot of people maybe are still getting to know Sweeper and Quartet as the kind of the new kids on the block, and hopefully people are kind of starting to dive into them.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite modes on it is the it's got that grain thing, like the real time
Yeah.
granularization. Like I have no idea how that works, but it's like you can take really simple stuff, just like a plain sawtooth or something, and you run it through this. I mean, that sounds like a super saw, and that's just coming off a.
Yeah. It's got that
crazy.
sort of that Hoover bass element to it as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, if you kind of like filtered that down a bit, that's pure like drum and bass, like a dark, greasy sort of sound.
Right. That is, yeah, it really does. God, you get a lot of bang for the buck there. That is
Yeah,
cool.
but I mean, I'm using it on a lot of stuff, like mainly basses, but clean guitars sounds
Yep.
really good on as well. Yeah, love it.
I think chorus was the first pedal I got for guitar when I was, no, the Metal Zone, Boss Metal Zone was my first. But after that, I got a chorus pedal. I was listening to a lot of Rush, and I was like, oh, I got to get a chorus pedal. So I got it. And then I went through this period for that summer where it was gratuitous chorus overload on everything, was just this
Yep.
shimmering chorus. And then you kind of learn its place and when to use it. But
I think my first pedal was something like Zoom 4040, which I don't know if anyone in the chat is unfortunate enough to know what that is, but it's literally the worst pedal. It's everything about it sucks. It looks horrible. It's made entirely out of plastic. But yeah, I remember I used to rinse the chorus on that as well. So.
I'm laughing because I'm looking at the comments here, and Chalism in the comments said that New Kids on the Block just demonetized this video because of those. I think he's referring to the song "The Right Stuff," which I probably lost over 3/4 of this audience or more by referencing that song. But I didn't do it; he did. But yeah, it's got that classic that sound that you were doing, that saw through a chorus. Is kind of the hook of that song. Oh my gosh. Chalism, why you gotta make me look old? But so let's poke around through some other stuff going on here, because there's a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, so Let's take it to a bit where something happens. Oh, so that kind of Vox melody thing, I believe is Bitly. It's a Bitly refill.
Oh.
And it's like a Fairlight vocal sample. If I could find it, that would be really cool.
That sounds, that part of it, that reminds me so much of that.
Art of Noise?
What's it?
Art of Noise?
No, I'm going to go with a less hip reference. There's a Katy Perry song.
Is it Dark? No,
yeah,
Dark Horse?
Dark Horse. Yeah, Dark Horse. Yeah, yep. It's got a
similar... Yeah, I think they might even use the same sound on that, because like Fairlight is a really
right,
well-known thing.
Is that the same? If I could ask, in the beginning of the song, there's some like vocal cut up thing as well too, but that's not Bitly, is it? Oh, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, same patch. I think later on I kind of swapped that out for like a ravey synth.
Oh. All right, wait, hang on. We are going through this. We're going to go through this a little slower because that's a really great tip for people to kind of understand. Wind us back to the very top and let's solo that Bitly vocal thing, the Vox. Now, was that just how it comes out of the combinator with the delay and all that, or is that your...
I believe the delay is... let's have a look. What channel is it? Yeah, it's Echo.
Okay, you've added.
So I guess it should be a send effect, but I do like to put things as inserts if I need to like chop them off or have a moment in the song where it's like just dead stop, you just bring the channel down and all the effects go with it.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, that's not me misusing an effect. It's on purpose. That's what it is.
Right. That's right. Everyone in the comments, don't you start telling him there should be a send effect. He thought this through.
So yeah, I guess that sound kind of does the heavy lifting of the kind of motif in the song until right at the very end, and then you swap it out for like a way brighter sound.
Oh wait, hang on. We're gonna go mid step. So you start with it down low. Like the way that you build this intensity is not just an A B. There's a little bit of an ABC to it. So you start down low, then you go in same sound, but you pitch it higher.
Yes.
So can we hear the switch over from one to the other? Maybe from bar 26 or something. We'll lead up to it. So same sound. It's the same sound, but you're building. So what I think is cool about this, when I look at these things, I always am thinking about the people watching and thinking, how can we kind of turn some light bulbs on for people? And
so,
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. Go ahead.
Well, I just think what's so simple but effective about this is that you're building intensity through pitch, and it's so often we can get so sucked into the front panels of these synths and think, oh, I need this to sound more intense, so I'm going to filter, or I'm going to add distortion, or I'm going to add an effect, I'm going to do this or that, and to just dial it all back to the composition element.
Yeah, I kind of had that realization like quite recently that the notes that you choose to play are as much a part of like the mix as anything else, and in a lot of ways with this kind of music, the mix feeds back into composition and everything as well. So when you see people that are trying to mix a song that fundamentally might have the wrong note choices, where it's like maybe you don't need to cut the bass, you just need to get rid of the notes that are playing down low.
Right.
And if you want to lift the song up, you don't necessarily want to like just boost the highs, just add in like a higher instrument. It's naturally going to have higher registers to it. Right.
I love that, what you just said. The notes are, I'm going to get it wrong. The notes are as important as the mix.
Because the notes are just frequencies, and mixing is frequencies. So I guess it kind of just follows through that's the two are going to be connected. Yeah.
Right, right. So that's your 3-step there, that transitional intensity. You start down low, you keep it on the same patch, and then when you need that like next level intensity, you switch up the sound. And so can we hear where that goes?
Yeah, so you can see actually, I think at one point I actually had both in at the same time. I've still got it there, but I just muted it because it was overkill. So I think from around here is a good point.
It's really nice.
And then obviously this bit is then bringing it back to the sort of motif from the beginning, just in a higher register.
Yeah. So that's actually, I guess, sort of fourth level intensity.
I
Go ahead.
I remember that this is years and years ago. Like I used to post on this forum. I think it was like MX forums or something. And this is when we all used to share our music on Sound. No, was it SoundClick? SoundClick. And I remember this one guy just randomly dropped this comment like, familiarity is a really powerful tool in music. So have something in there that's kind of like the linchpin of the song that when someone hears it again, they're like, oh yeah, I know that bit.
Yeah.
And it ties things together thematically, and you can then play about with it and bring it back in like unexpected ways. So I guess like in this instance, you're taking what was like a subdued, vocal motif from the beginning, and then you just bring it back with intensity, and it sounds really different.
Right.
But even if someone was to listen to it on a first go, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's the thing from the beginning.
I had, talking about familiarity, I had a sort of admittedly terrible, and it was based in elitist, but it was really quite just ignorant, belief in my sort of late teens. I was all into progressive, not even progressive metal. I was more just like the retro stuff, Yes and ELP and all that kind of stuff. And with that, I kind of just got into that like music snobbery thing with this idea. I remember saying once, and I like want to go back and slap myself with a time machine, but I said once that, once you do something once, why do it again? People have already heard it. Just do something new, And it sounded so cerebral and like, oh yes, but what I actually had a moment. It like literally was a on a dime moment where that entire notion went away. It was a friend of mine. I was in college. I was in the UK. I was going to college in the UK. A friend of mine walked in on the day that Massive Attack's album came out, the one that had Teardrop on it. And they walked up to me and they literally just put headphones on my head. I was in a music production degree program, so we were all kind of into production stuff. He put the headphones on my head and said, "You've got to hear this." And so as the headphones go on to me, I hear just that arpeggio and Teardrop, ding, 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 ding. And then you hear the piano chords come in, and they're switching the harmonic structure underneath, but that motif is just going and going and going. And I had this moment where I was like, I don't want that to stop. I want that repetition to go forever. And it was like, it just disintegrated instantly any notion that repetition is a bad thing. And and from that, Mezzanine, thank you, Push Button. That was the album, yes. It's exactly that. And I've talked about this in tutorials too. I did a how to make catchy hooks tutorial on the YouTube channel here.
I remember that one.
And that's part of the idea, is that repetition is an effective tool. It's like you're a partner with the listener, so you want to kind of lead them and help them go follow the song with you, and repetition is a way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of had the same journey in that I started with stuff that was like, I guess some of it was complicated for complicated's sake, and it was coming at something by saying, how difficult can I make this? And then obviously as I've started listening to other stuff, and like my partner's been showing me music that 10, 15 years ago I would have been like, what's this DJ stuff? And you just find that, the power in simplicity and in, as you say, in repetition, like even something as simple as like a kick drum that's just playing 4/4. And I kind of like what you were saying, that it's the partnership between the artist and listener, that they know that our brain is looking for signals like, okay, there's been 4 groups of this, and we interpret things in a certain way, and it's a really powerful thing.
Yeah.
You don't need to overcomplicate by making it difficult or.
Absolutely. In fact, I sort of came so 180 that, my new outlook on these sort of things is that it's easy to make something non-repetitive and complex and kind of wow people with kind of how outside the box you are. And I've got polyrhythms and I'm using micro tunings and I'm, you can do all the little complexity tricks. It's really hard. And that little arpeggio in Teardrop, that I won't beat it. It's the best one I've heard in terms of simplicity and beauty and simplicity. And so there's a real skill in making simple, repetitive, catchy. I mean, gosh, that's just, a lifetime of study, I think, for people to work on that kind of stuff. So, but part of that also comes with kind of giving yourself permission. This is something I go through on other instruments. I'm going to talk about the banjo, but I have this thing when I'm working up arrangements where I'll catch myself thinking when I'm working on an arrangement. I'll go, I can't do that. That's too simple. I got to do something a little more fancy. And then you have to go, no, you don't have to do something more fancy. What serves the song and the track, And that's true as in electronic production, certainly. So
absolutely
cool to see that you've done it. I was going to answer a question I saw this is completely off topic, but somebody was asking a question in the comments. I don't know if it got answered, so I'm going to answer it for you. They had a question about a very basic technical thing. As I understood it, they were asking, they had TRS outputs on their sound card and they wanted to hook up RCA cables, and how do they do that? Does that work? The answer is yes, it works. The cables will automatically operate at an unbalanced versus a balanced signal. They handle that automatically based on the electric contacts on the cable. You don't have to do anything. Just get adapters and you're good to go. So, okay, so let me bring your screen back up and let's take a poke around a little more. I want to see kind of, well, first of all, actually, I wanted to, on that big synth at the end.
Yes.
What is that? That's a very big sounding synth. Yeah, what is going on there?
I believe that is, of course, it's Antidote. It's literally, Antidote is like my most overused synth. I kind of feel this guilt when I'm like, okay, I need a new instrument. It's going to be Antidote. It's going to be a Super Saw, like every single time. But I love the unison section on it. It's really wide and thick. So I think on this, looking at it, it's just a sawtooth with a stacked oscillator, I think. And and echo again.
Could we? I wonder if I could, and tell me, no, don't make me do this if it's a bad idea. But I wonder, since you're a lover of Antidote, if you could give people kind of a quick once-over of kind of, because it's a somewhat unique architecture to make these super saws, right?
Yeah. So let's have a look.
I'm putting Paul on the spot, guys. He's going to be a good sport about this, but.
So. I mean, literally, oscillators up to 12. Find a sort of sweet spot for the D2. And then perhaps like a little bit of sub-octave or something.
Now, you just made that look easy. Let's go through. So you're using the count, right?
Yes.
And that's literally, so it by its default, Antidote's making a single sawtooth wave, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess the thing that might be a little bit confusing if someone is coming to this from like a traditional synth architecture is that it's not got that kind of 3 or 4 oscillator panel. So if you want 4 copies, you just choose the number 4. So you don't have to do like hyper modern super saw stuff. It can get that kind of analog 2 oscillator sound, and then you just kind of spread the tuning out using the detune knob.
Right, okay.
But then at the higher counts, like 12, that's where you get the really deep.
Yeah. Now, could you theoretically replicate some of that with a quartet on a lower count oscillator, or is it a different result that you get?
I mean, again, it's just to sort of revisit the sound that I did earlier with the subtractor, I would go for the grain, I guess. I mean, already that sounds kind of cool, but I guess grain kind of does the same thing, because the density, you can look at that as like the number of oscillators almost, but it's just increasing the number of grains that are being played. And then mod depth, I suppose, is akin to detune.
Right. Yeah, okay, sure.
And then I guess the jitter is just the sort of... Don't actually know what that does. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's in similar territory to Antidote, really.
Yeah. So if you're using the stock stuff, that's kind of a quick way to get to it. But yeah, I know people that just swear by Antidote for those kind of big super saws, and watching you do it in 3 knobs makes sense.
Yeah, and also you've got so you have this one modifier control, but it functions differently depending on which waveturbo you have selected. So I think these top ones are virtual analog. So this, I believe, is oscillator sync. Let me just drop it down to 1. If it's on pulse, then it becomes pulse width. But if you then choose one of the wavetables like Digimil, it then scans through the sample a little bit like the position control on Europa.
Yeah, sure. Or Maelstrom as well. They have, I can't remember the controllers.
Oh, Index, I think?
Yeah, Index. That's what it's called on Maelstrom. Yeah. Yeah.
I know these since I'm asleep. Too many years, man.
Oh my gosh. But okay, so you're using Antidote on that big synth sound, and then there's some effects that are going.
Yeah, and I think the only other thing that's really happening on it is there's a bit of glide or portamento, so it kind of accentuates the attack of each note because you've got that quick pitch jump. So without, it's kind of like... Sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, no, go ahead. I've come play it. That's fine. Yeah, it's got it just gives it a little bit of, not a humanized vocal. It doesn't sound like a human vocal, but it's kind of, if you were to try and sing that, and I won't dare try and do that on the stream, but if you were to try and sing it, you would have a natural scoop that would just be the way that your voice is trying to get up there. So it does kind of provide a little bit of that, what our brains are used to from thousands of years of singing and not having synths. That is cool. There's another thing I was gonna ask about there. What was it? Wait.
What have we got? There's some guitar, there's some pads, which I think is that a preset? Did I cheat? Oh, I did cheat.
You're allowed to use presets, Paul.
Yeah.
Presets are not your enemy.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is something that I've changed my sort of approach on, especially since I've been doing this more for work purposes. Is like you were kind of saying earlier, why remake something that's been made, and that the presets are there to be used, and it helps me work a bit quicker. So I'm definitely not anti-preset. I used to be, but I'm not anymore.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, I'm a big believer in presets. Often, for me, the part will come from preset browsing, and so I can't ignore that. That's a useful creative tool. That if I want to add, a lot of times for things like that, like the sort of arpeggio that you've got going over there, or that vocal little Fairlight vocal hook thing that you're doing, for me, those things would have come. I wouldn't have thought I should get a Fairlight vocal sample patch. I wouldn't go for it. I would just find it while I'm blipping through presets, and all of a sudden the part just kind of falls out of the keyboard. So I think
it is literally just a preset through. So this reverb, I think it's the same reverb that's built into Antidote, or it's based on it or something.
Uh-huh.
But it's one of my go-tos. It's really spacious and kind of lush.
Yeah, a lot of people I've been hearing about. Adam mentioned it on his stream that we did. He's a big fan of it, and since then I've been kind of catching wind of it from other people that really love the sound of that reverb.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always kind of use Subtractor as the sort of yardstick as to how much an effect can transform something, because subtractor is like, it's super basic. And so even if you take something like a sine wave, so if I chuck on the DR1 and I think it goes up to like 60 seconds of decay time.
Yeah.
Like, that's so sick.
It's it is. No, but it is. It's
Still going.
It's beautiful. This is a thing for the people watching. When Paul and I were talking, one of the things that I love about what Paul does is that he can make sounds epic through pretty simple steps. And it's not a thing, you don't have to dedicate a whole evening to trying to make an epic sound. He's literally just taking, that was a sine wave that you started with, or is it a sort of
it's
filtered
just
triangle? Or?
It's just a sine wave.
With a little bit of release, yeah.
The thing that makes it interesting, I think, is that it's got that decayed pitch LFO. So that as it decays, it starts to wobble. And then when that feeds into the reverb, you then kind of get this smearing of all the different pitches together as it goes through.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's one of those. It's really, if you zoom in on that and focus on it, you could probably get, and certainly if you're insecure, you could get a little bit thrown by like, I can't do that. That I'm making it go out of tune and wobble. That's not cool. But it's actually very cool. Wow.
Yeah. Pitch modulation is everything.
This is one of those pitch modulations. Is that like a bumper sticker on your car? Pitch modulation is everything. That's one of those things that comes from experimentation and trusting, having it go well enough times that you come to trust that is a viable avenue of sound design to go down.
Yeah, absolutely. And the same thing again. I just changed that to a sawtooth and dull the filter a bit, and you get this kind of like.
This is a Kate Bush comeback album.
Yeah.
It's ready to go.
So I like one thing that I like to do with that, because obviously the release time is a thing that you kind of have to contend with there. But like you could bounce that to an audio clip, drop it into grain, and then you've got like this lush pad sample or chord or something that's got that reverb characteristic built into it. So I tend to do that a lot as well.
Interesting. Yeah, that's I think that's something, there are themes that have been kind of starting to emerge from having now done 16 live streams and finding commonalities between different people's workflows. And the grain one is a kind of cool one. It's similar to what Dizzy Notra was doing with sort of live sampling last week, and it's similar to what Koichi, when we had Koichi Sanchez on. These are people that don't treat the synth as the end destination in the creative process. They then render it to audio and then move it into another thing, be it a sampler or be it grain, which really is just another form of sampler. And so that's what I'm hearing from you as well, too, huh?
Yeah, I think it's treating the synths like a sound source more than a plugin that you're triggering live. I guess just treating it like hardware, really. You just record it back in, and then you can do things with it in the audio realm that are a bit more interesting.
Right. Okay, so now I'm poking around your sequencer to see what else is going on here. The drums, you said they're fairly straightforward. They're just using it's the Trap Hat player. That's kind of what's unique to it, right?
I think on this one, pattern 1 is my verse and pattern 2 is the chorus. So you can kind of see it changing around in the, if I can find it. And the nice thing with that pattern is that I've used the, it's like the pendulum playback mode.
Yeah.
So it kind of scans through the hat pattern one way and then back the other way. So you actually get like a 32-step hat sequence out of it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you see, just it's ping ponging.
Yeah. And there's not a lot going on there. Again, sweeper, just some flanger to make it a bit more interesting, so it's not just a hat.
Oh, but that's interesting. I mean, it's not uncommon, but that's it's certainly not the standard thing you do to every hat, right?
No, it kind of just fills it out a little bit more, and like that's not a particularly nice sample on its own. Just adds that nice like metallic overtone.
Yeah, it
to
actually does quite a bit of dispersion on it as well too. Kind of giving it a little, it sort of softens the attack to some degree.
Yes.
Yeah. Really cool. The people in the comments have caught on, Paul, to the fact that we did synchronize our flannel. So
yeah, we're rocking the partner look. It's good.
When we got on the Zoom call before the stream, guys, I said, "Oh, if I'd known, I would have worn a black T-shirt and done just like Paul. We could have really gone for it." So, well, cool. This is, I love. I hope other people love this too. I love looking at other people's sequences because you learn quite a bit in terms of the way that they approach. And there's stuff in here that hopefully people have. I mean, even just that last thing alone, if you aren't putting a flanger on your hi-hats, take that from today, or if all you take from today is the idea that the notes you choose are as important as your mix, and you can think of your note choices as mixing, like that, take that today too. I mean, I think that's so neat to get those kind of insights by looking at other people's work. So I thank you, Paul, for letting us poke around. I wonder, as we kind of wrap up here, I'm going to ask you to cue up your tune, because like maybe some version that could loop as outro music for us.
Yeah, we could do that. That's fine. I don't think I've changed anything in the process of showing you. We'll soon find out. And
then I'm going to give you, I don't do this for everybody, but I think you can handle this instruction. When we do this, I'm going to have you ride the master fader to sort of duck under me, and then as I'm done, you're going to come up. It's going to be a beautiful thing. We're going to choreograph our outro music here.
Excellent.
But yeah, so guys, I think that's about where we're going to wrap it for today. And like I said, if you weren't here on the beginning of the broadcast, I'm going to be off next week. So we're going to be, I hope you guys are going to miss me. I'm going to miss you, but we'll be back next week. So don't worry about that. All right, Paul, why don't you cue us up here?
Yep, I'm pretty much ready to go.
Hi-hat outro music.
Really nice. Feel the power. Okay, tell me when to go. I'm good.
Okay, you go for it. All right. So yes, guys, I want to sincerely thank Paul for being a guest with me here. He is a friend of the Reason Studios community, and someone that I've known sort of on the digital realm, but getting to know him in prepping for the stream has been great. We chatted yesterday. We could have just kept going yesterday chatting. We thought, you know what, we should maybe we should bring other people in on the stream and invite everybody there. So I hope you had a good time today. I want to thank Paul for being our guest. It's probably not the last time you're going to see him on these streams. If these streams carry on into the future, into their unknown future, I'm going to start having some best ofs and repeat guests, and so we'll probably bring Paul back on, and like I said, maybe we'll do another one of those big Zoom calls, and maybe Paul will join in on one of those too. So thanks for everybody for joining us. Stick around. We will be back the week after next for Your Reason to Stay Inside. I think I have a guest planned, and shall I tease our guest and say, assuming that she will be our guest, she is someone who's been on a live stream with us before, but not, here's the riddle, but not on Your Reason to Stay Inside. With that, I'll leave you to speculate, and I will see you next week. No, I will not see you next week. I'll see you the week after next. See? And have a good week. Have a good 2 weeks. Make some good music. We'll see you soon.